You're listening to the Renegade Blitz. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. And subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
The Renegade Blitz podcast after an exciting week one of the preseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Steelers defeating the Bucs 27-17. I'm Tyler Polk. That's Brandon Walker, Chris Ward as well, and we're glad to have on Bryan DeArdo. He's from CBS Sports Network. He's currently double tasking right now, watching the other games and also giving us his thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bryan, thank you for taking a little bit of your time.
No, hey guys, my pleasure. Always good to talk Steelers football with three people as knowledgeable and as good at it as you guys are. So my pleasure.
That's high praise, and we appreciate it. So, Bryan, the story of this game, of course, is always going to be about the quarterback, Kenny Pickett. And it was a pretty good game for him, 6-7, a touchdown to George Pickens. It was the first preview of an offense that looks like it might have something together, at least with the first team so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and I wrote this last night. I think all you guys would agree. I mean, basically, if you've been following camp until now, that was basically a reaffirmation of everything that we've either seen or heard or read or whatever during camp. Like everything kind of came to fruition last night. So, most specifically, that first drive with Kenny and George kind of leaving off, picking up where they left off, what they've been doing in camp, the offense moving as well as it did. And then the guys we've been hearing about or seeing that played well, not just that first drive. So, Calvin Austin, Anthony McFarland, Nick Herbig, and Quan Alexander with that huge hit. And then Keanu Benton, their other rookie. So, I mean, if you're Mike Tomlin, I don't think you can be much happier than last night. But I think the thing that kind of surprised me was, whenever we're seeing these big plays to Pickens, they're always like these deep sideline passes where he's just making these amazing catches. Like that was like a Jerry Rice, like in the Super Bowl against Denver, where he caught the ball, took a hit and ran in. I mean, that's the kind of plays that you don't see a lot of. And I think that was kind of, encouraging to me. And I think that's one thing that George has talked about is I don't want to be just this big play guy as far as making these ridiculous catches. I want to be a catch and run guy in the middle of the field. So I think that was a surprising takeaway. And then Deontay being as involved as he was, because that kind of, I don't want to say concerned is the right word, but I've kind of been wondering, is there going to be enough football to go around all the guys? And it seems like if Deontay can kind of be the laborer and George can kind of be the big play guy, I think that's going to work and pay dividends. So I'm curious to see what you guys thought. But overall, I thought that it was a strong opening game. And I don't think if you're Mike Tomlin, you could be much happier.
Yeah, and speaking of George Pickens, you were at training camp there for a couple of weeks ago for a few days there. I saw. What did you see from him, up close in person? Because I mean, that one catch he had I don't know if you were there that day when he had the one-handed catch over Joey Porter Jr. And they've been going at it all throughout training camp, and that should make Porter even better. But what did you see there when you were at training camp?
I hate saying this because it's not fair, but like I was at Brown's last camp, and like with the Steelers, like there's nothing like that guy. I mean, he's kind of like he's like the standard for like what a great wide receiver looks like. But like, I mean, George has flashes of that dominance. I mean, AB was that way like every play. I mean, that dude dominated. But like, you see flashes of that with George and just his physicality. I think what's incredible about him is, and it was evident last year, and it's been evident in camp. He just makes crazy catches when he's not open. And George and Kenny, or whoever is his quarterback, giving him the faith to throw him the ball when he's not open is just really impressive. But you did see little bits of the that touchdown that you saw that night. You just didn't see a lot of it, right? And I was there before they put pads on, so it was hard for me to really see what was going on when the pads are on, obviously. But like you saw plays like that during the scrimmage where George would catch a ball in the middle and then he would take it to the house. But again, you always wondered, okay, when the pads are on, is this actually going to be a touchdown? So last night was obviously an answer. But he's very, very physical. I will say this: he still does drop like Tomlin's big quote. One of his big quotes, right, is make the routine plays routinely. He still doesn't do that all the time. And so I think if that's like the next challenge for him, because he can make the sideline catches, he can make the big Lynn Swan-like catches. And then last night, he can make the play in the middle. Make more of the routine plays routinely, I think is going to be the next step for him. Because I think 7 shots, one of the days I was there, he didn't catch a pass in the end zone that he could have caught. So I think that, to me, is the next step in his maturation process.
All right, who impressed you during camp? Because we hear like this kid, Kenny Robinson, said Joey Porter Jr. We saw Quan last night. Jesus, like he was making plays. Yeah. I was like, that's Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker right there. We haven't seen that since Shazier.
Right.
So I want to say, who impressed you during camp while you was there? Who impressed you overall in general, leading up from camp to now?
Right. Well, Corey Trice was till he hurt his knee. I mean, that was a bummer. Like, he was having a pretty nice camp. And I think one of the days I was there, maybe like one of the last days they had it was the last day I was there. They gave a lot of the veterans the day off, and they let Corey and a lot of the younger guys go against the starting offense. And he was holding his own. I mean, there were a few plays where obviously George is going to burn him for a touchdown, but there were a few plays where he played well and then he hurt his knee. Duke Dawson was another guy that was looking good to me. And then he got hurt last night. I don't think we know the severity of the injury just yet, and in general, I think that's one of the biggest thing that concerns me. I'm sure you guys would agree, is the secondary. And then with Joey Porter now not playing last night because his ankle, I don't think it's anything serious, but maybe something to keep an eye on. That's probably the biggest thing with me that concerns me. But Herbig in camp looked great when I was there. Samalu looked great. I thought James Daniel looked great. There was a pull-out block with Najee was coming at me on the sidelines, and James Daniels and Samalu were leading it. And I think that he could have a nice season, particularly in the running game. Highsmith would just look dominant. He just did. And definitely gave Dan Moore some fits when they were going against each other. Connor Haywood really, really impressed me. And I think he had at least one nice catch on Friday night. I don't think his name. And I think that might be the thing with Connor. And I think that might just be, and I think, again, I think you guys would agree. I think if the offense looks like this, where no one's really dominating as far as statistically, but they're having, I think that might be a good thing for this team, because that means that they're spreading it around and they're getting contributions from everybody. And I think last night just might be the kind of season Connor has, where he might only have, 2 catches for 29 yards, and you're just reading the box score and you're like, all right, this guy really isn't doing much. But it's when he makes the catches, right? Like a 3rd and 7, a 15-yard catch or something like that. So like Connor, and when I talked to him during one of their media availabilities, and I'm like, what's like the big thing that you worked on this offseason? He's like, I came in and I think I'm coming in much better conditioning, because last year I came in, and I think a lot of rookies, and again, I think you guys would agree, like when you read and you interview a lot of rookies, they always say like that first year is hard because you're not really getting in shape for football. You're getting in shape for the combine. So it's like running good 40 times and running good vertical jumps. It's not really, and then you get drafted, and then all of a sudden you're like trying to get like your housing figured out and moving all your stuff. So I feel like a lot of guys conditioning, they're not where they should. James Conner was a guy that struggled with that. And then his next year, 18, is when he had the big year when Le'Veon was out. So you could see that conditioning, you could see it. He looks thinner. He looks more in shape. You saw him a lot running after the catch and doing a lot of extra cardio in practice. He looked really good to me too. And Joey obviously looks good. The big knock, I think, on him and why he fell to the second round was that he's handsy, right? He can use his hands a little bit more. He hasn't really had an issue with that in camp. And then McFarland looked really good too. And then again, you saw that again last night. And again, like last night was really interesting to me because it was like everybody that you were seeing and we're talking about in camp showed it last night. And I didn't see Alexander really practice yet. He was there my last day. But man, he looked good. I know one of those plays was flagged, which didn't look like a flag to me. But
yeah, I was going to ask about that. Do you think like this unnecessary? Because that was a clean. I know he like kind of grazed the face mask. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I didn't think that was so wrong. I'm like, what you gonna do? Football player make a play. Football play.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think they're trying to get rid of like the knockout hit from football. I think it's like But like, I don't know how you really do that. And that's a great point, Brandon, because like, here's the thing that like bothers me about like football and like where we're going the most. Just be consistent. Because if that play is in the Super Bowl, most likely, that's not being flagged. And that's like the thing, like when you look back at like New England and the dynasty they had, I think one of the underrated parts of their dynasty was it's like they knew what they could get away with in the playoffs relative to the regular season. Like Patrick Chung was just like, I remember the AFC Championship game in 2016 when it started to go away from the Steelers. Ben threw a pass to, I think, who's the tight end? I can't remember his name right now. Jesse James, right? Yeah. And it was pass interference. If it's week 11, it's pass interference, but they didn't call it. And Patrick Chung was just draped on the Jesse James. And Ben got angry and whatever. And then I think things started to snowball. Like, that's not going to be a flag, that hit. I think it was on Keyshawn Vaughn, maybe, I think, last night. But whoever it was, that's not going to be a flag in the playoffs. So I agree with you. I don't understand that being a flag. But, again, I think they're just trying to take away, like, the knockout punch. Because Quan hits like that. I mean, Quan is a physical, kind of nasty guy. Not nasty in a bad way, but, like, nasty in a football way. Like, he's an intimidator. And, like, my thing is this, I don't think you shouldn't take the intimidation factor out of the NFL. And I think that's a thing that I get scared with. It's like they know what they're signing up for, and I don't want them to take that part out of the game.
Is there one thing you want to see improved on, or was there one player that pointed out to you in your mind that he did not have a good game?
Well, I'm interested to see what you guys think, because I was talking to my dad about this earlier today. Is the number 2 quarterback spot like locked up? Like, is it Mitch's job? Like, because, and like, all right, I love Mitch. I really do. I think he's a good guy, and I'm glad that he's there still. I think he's a good quality backup, and I think he takes some of the leadership burden away from Kenny because he was a captain last year, and I think it allows Kenny to focus more on the football, which I like. But I didn't really see, and a lot of writers I was around, like, they were like, oh, Mitch's looked really good in camp. Like, I didn't really see it. Like, he looks okay, but there are a lot of throws that he made even in camp where I'm like, there's no way that receiver's catching the ball. Like, he just threw it. Like, it's like playing 500. Like, and then that was kind of the case last night. I mean, he didn't really look good, and I thought Mason looked really good. I mean, that touchdown to Calvin was awesome. So, I mean, and I think in general, if there's one part of the team that I think could improve, I think it was the run defense late in that game. But again, that was a lot of guys that aren't going to make the 53, so I'm not terribly concerned with that. But I mean, to me, it was like, do we have an actual number 2 position battle here at quarterback? And because I think that we should, because I think that if you just look at last night, I thought Mason had a much better performance.
I agree.
I would say this. Oh, go ahead, Ty.
I agree with it. And the one thing that I've always thought about Mason Rudolph, especially, I'm shocked he's still on this team for a lot of reasons. And he's playing like a guy that has nothing to lose. And it feels with Trubisky, I think he kind of feels that pressure of, if I don't get it done here, I don't think there's another chance in this league.
I would say this. I would say, number one, you are right about that. And I'm concerned about red zone defense.
Yeah.
That was the ones that gave up the that touchdown to I can't.
Trey Palmer.
Who got the pass for Tampa?
Trey Palmer, I think, the rookie.
Yeah.
Rookie.
Was
that's
it
what
the
I'm saying.
tap?
Like, you got
in the back?
Situational football that they stress. Thomas stresses all the time. And yes, there's a reason why they signed Mason Rudolph back. Number one, he'll be cheaper. And 2,
right? Sure.
I didn't see it in Mitch anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's a part of me that thinks they would have been better served just like getting because I think they're paying Mitch quite a bit of money, and like they're getting away with it right now because they have Kenny, but they're not going to be able to get away with that down the line. But part of me wonders, like, they just should have had like Mason and then Tanner, or even like last year. It's like, I think maybe potentially Mason would have been a better bridge for Kenny, because like with Mitch, then it was kind of like you're just kind of playing this game. And I think it ultimately somewhat worked out, It didn't. I mean, Kenny still ended up taking over. He played most of the season. He got a lot of reps. He wasn't rushed in right away. He got a little bit of a chance to watch and learn. I mean, we're burying the lead here. I think most people care about Kenny. I mean, Kenny looked great last night. And I think it's funny now because it's like, it's crazy now that this was a debate last year who was their best quarterback. Because and I saw it in camp and we saw it last night and we saw it during the season last year. It's like Kenny's feel for the game is just so much more. It's far more superior than Mitch's, and I think Mason's second as far as the three quarterbacks, as far as play recognition, reading defenses, making quick decisions. And it's not like all Kenny's decisions last year were right. You know what I mean? Like the Miami game, he's the reason why they lost that game at the end, right? But his decision making, his ability to read defense is phenomenal. I still am somewhat worried about this, and I saw this in camp. That defense and that pass rush with Watt and with Highsmith, more so Highsmith. I think Watt's just kind of relaxing until week one. I think he's kind of taking it easy in practice, but they still have their way a lot with the quarterbacks, with the offensive line. So I still think this line is built to be a better run line than a passing protection line. I'm still somewhat concerned with that. I mean, their tackles still are great. Like Corford is a solid starting right tackle. Moore, I think is getting better, and I think he's been motivated by them drafting Jones. But I still think that pass protection could be a concern for this team. I think that and the pass defense are the two biggest concerns for this team.
And this is kind of like a more type quote, but Matt Canada, he's like the biggest question mark, I guess, going into this season. Do you think he can lead Kenny Pickett and the offense to a high-powered offense where they're scoring 30 points? Because they've only done it twice under Matt Canada, I think. Do you think he could lead them to the upper echelon of NFL offenses?
Here's the thing, and I hate saying this, but I'm not quite smart enough to know, because it's like when I talked to Pratt last year, and he was like, "Yeah, we know what they're doing. We know what the Steelers like to do, like that." I think every team. I can't remember what NFL player coach I talked to, but they said at one point, it's like at some point what an opposing play caller's tendencies are, like Andy Reid or Sean McVay or Canada, whoever it is. When the chips are down and they need it. It's Dick LeBeau. I was listening to him on Pick Six, and he said that my job was to always try to figure out when the team needed to have it, what did they do? What did they like doing most? And I try to take that away. And I do feel like Canada is somewhat predictable there. And I will say this: I want them to take, and I say this to my whole family. They're all Bengal fans. I say this to them. It's I think they get a little too conservative in the postseason, and I think the Steelers on third down, more so than anything, or in the red zone, need to be less predictable and take more chances. And I think with the Steelers found their identity when they started winning at the end of last year, and I think it's going to be that way again this year. I think it's going to be very balanced. I think it could be the most balanced offense in the NFL. And I think with this offensive line, what they've constructed, it is a team I think they're bruisers. They're a team that's going to try to control the ball. Because that drive yesterday was pretty long, wasn't it? It wasn't like a quick drive as far as plays. It was pretty long. I think that's what they want to do. They want to be a balanced offense that can make the big play. They can run the ball. Because Warren and Najee, they're not going to go away from those guys. I think both those guys are going to have. They could have total. I think it wouldn't be a stretch to say that those two guys get 2,000 to 2,400 all-purpose yards between them next year. I think they're going to be really integral to this offense. But to me, it's more of, okay, when it's third down, are you going to make the plays to extend the drive? And I think that's, to me, the biggest thing I'm looking for is how are you going to do in the red zone? How are you going to do on third downs? Because especially with Mitch, I just thought their third down offense last year was atrocious. And even in the red zone, I think that they struggled. So that, to me, is what I'm interested in. But I think in general, I think Canada's going to do fine. I still think Haley's the best offensive coordinator they've had post Arians. I think Fickner was okay, but I think he kind of got a raw deal his time in Pittsburgh. But I think that this offense this year, and if there isn't, I think one of you guys, I think that you tweeted Chris last night, if they go 0-3 right today, they should fire Canada. That might be a little premature. Yeah, if this offense is not top 12 in the league in scoring, I think there's and top 10 in. To me, again, they need to be top 10 in red zone scoring and third down offense more than anything. And if they're not, then there's a problem.
All right. I finally met you in person at the Jets game.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. This is what we're gonna bring up. There was a little deal around the Super Bowl, like when a colleague of yours, correct? I'm not gonna mention his name, but
no, please do.
Oh, Greg Giannotti.
Never heard of him.
Something about Mitch Trubisky at the Jets game getting punched out by Deontay Johnson.
Oh.
You were there. I was. Did this happen? Let's put this throughout the world and have a person that was there confirm or deny that this happened. Did this happen?
My and I was. It was at halftime, so nobody was there. But there was, I think, from my understanding, a verbal altercation. There was no physical altercation. From my understanding, it was like there was frustration in the locker room. There was anger. I'm 95% sure Deontay was involved with what happened. He definitely was involved in some way, whether it was just a comment, a yell, a direct, because sometimes we get mad, we get our wives or somebody, a coworker, we don't stare them in the face, but we might just be at our cubicle and we're like, it'd be nice if somebody answered the phone, you know what I mean? It was either that or it was straight in his face. We needed there was some sort of vocal frustration from Deontay, but there was no punch or anything physical like that. So from my understanding, there was verbal frustration that was vented, and I don't think it was just Deontay. I think there was multiple people that were involved in it, and I don't know if that contributed to the decision to switch quarterbacks, but I think personally it did. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But no, there was no physical he wouldn't have played if that happened, right? There's no way. They benched Antonio for a week for being late for kickoff. You know what I mean? They're not gonna let a guy play if he punched out a teammate in the locker. So no, I can go ahead and say that with full autonomy. There was no physical anything between those two guys.
Yeah. I know. I was just want to say, confirm it.
I'll go ahead and confirm it. Why not?
We would have known about it. We would have had a whole podcast about it. And plus,
we know about there's no way that wouldn't have not been leaked for sure.
Yeah, I guess what happened was Giannotti at Super Bowl Media Row said what you said, Brett, about there's a physical allocation, but I guess Andrew later said that he told him the wrong information. So I don't know how that came about. They got mixed up. It was a big headline.
I'm sorry, I had to get that out of the way because I was bro, we have somebody who was actually there with me at the during that game. I'm did I miss anything? I'm did you see something too? I'm bro.
Emotions were high after that game.
It was. I know because you were there. We was in that locker room after that game.
Right.
It was bad.
Yeah.
The energy was terrible, and I think they played the Bills after that. I think that game spilled over to that Bills game too, in my opinion. That was when they got dog walked.
Well, I think the thing, and Kenny just talked to Peter King the week I was at camp, and I thought that one thing he said in that interview was interesting. He basically was like, I didn't get a chance to run the first team offense till that week. So and I think that's one thing when people keep saying, and then even in Ben's podcast, he's well, now people know what Kenny's going to look like. I don't think they do. because he didn't get a chance to run the first team offense till that Buffalo week. So to your point, I think that was just them walking into a Lion's den. I mean, they weren't ready for that game, and I do think emotions were high, and I do think that there were probably some people in that locker room that were loyal to Mitch, or at least thought that he got a short leash or got a kind of a raw deal or whatever. But and so I just think, and I hate saying this. It's weird to say it's about a Steelers team because they've never really been bad in like what I had hair the last time they were. But that's why I wear hats all the time now. But I digress. But I feel like they knew they weren't going to win. I hate saying that, but like I know they won there in 21. But I just feel like they knew that this. I kind of felt like last year's team was almost like, let's just get to the bye week and let's just start over. And I think that like that bye week was, and they've even all said this since, and that bye week was huge for them because they kind of got a chance to breathe. They got a chance to get out of like the grind of stressing and trying to stack wins, and they could just figure out like here's what our foundation is going to be moving forward. They kind of had to tear the rest of the house. They built up this house. It was ugly. They didn't like it. They got to tear it down during the bye week, and they got to rebuild it. I think. And now they're still building it now. I think they're going to keep building off what they built last year. But no, I mean, and that, again, I just think it's weird that Mitch is back for several reasons. But I think it's good that there is like no controversy. Like Kenny's the quarterback. We're buried down. If there's any controversy, it could be potentially Mason jumping ahead of him. And if I was a part of the weekly press conference, I'd ask that. Because I think it is interesting to see if there actually is a competition.
All right, Brian, we understand you got to go. Guys, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I had to get that in before. I had to get that comment to confirm it, just to make sure I missed something or anybody else in Steelers media saw something else that day. We have to confirm it.
Yeah,
can I ask you guys one thing real quick before I leave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was on the other night, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but I've got like a seat cushion from Super Bowl 30 right behind me here. And my uncle, who just passed away, so rest in peace, Uncle Ken. This is his seat cushion, so his fanny was on this at the game. It was on NFL Network the other day, and whenever that game's on, I watch it. It's like a bad movie though. Like it's going to happen, it, but you get sucked in because you think they might like win the game after like hundreds of times if I've seen this game, but like. I thought that, and I was there when they announced the Hall of Honor, and I really thought this was going to be Cordell's year, and I'm tying that in because Cordell was on this team. I know there's other deserving guys, but I just wonder why he keeps getting passed over. The last time I joined you guys, you had asked me if I had talked to Cordell yet, and I said no. I talked to him last summer, like right before I got COVID. I talked to him right before that. We talked for like 3 hours to him, and he talked so much about how much that honor would mean to him if he got in. In general, and I really think the Steelers doing such a good job honoring their past. I don't think that 95 team or those 90 teams get enough credit. Like Levon Kirkland's not in the Ring of Honor, to my knowledge, or the Hall of Honor. Jason Gilden isn't. I think there's a few guys on that team that are deserving. Yancey Thigpen probably deserves it, even though his prime, he went to Tennessee and that whole thing happened. But I just had to get that off my chest and see if you guys had anything to add to that. I think that there could be enough. There could be more done for that team, and that's why I don't know if you guys have been to the museum yet. But the museum is really cool because they break up like each era. And I think that's when really for you get to see as a fan which era means the most to you. Because like I spent all my time with the 90s group. I didn't really spend much time anywhere else. So that's it. I kind of just gave you a wet noodle there, but to chew on. But yeah, those are just kind of my thoughts, my parting thoughts as far as that's concerned.
Well, I know this. My granddad actually was at that Super Bowl as well, and I have an NBC Sports Network hat that I wore on occasion for a while after we cleaned out up there. So, yeah, I do have a keepsake from that Super Bowl. I was one. 1996?
Oof, man, you're aging.
I wasn't one yet. I was almost one. I was born in April, so I can't count fast. But yeah, regardless, I was under one.
I think that was probably the second Super Bowl that I actually remember. Because I was
me 9. Too. I was 10. Yeah.
No, the first. I'm gonna actually tell you this. The first game Steeler game I could remember was that. Unfortunately, it's a bad memory. The year before.
Oh,
Yeah,
San Diego.
Oh, San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, my first game, I remember they lost to Dallas week 194 because my birthday is 9/11. So that was my 9th birthday. And I remember being so mad because my dad was basically ignoring me to yell at the screen. And I hated football. Super Bowl 30 made me a football fan because I kept hearing there's no way they're going to beat Dallas. Dallas was 11-point favorites or something. That's back when the NFC won all the Super Bowls in a row. And the fact it was like the movie Rocky, the first one, when he didn't win, but he went the distance. You know what I mean? And it was the fact they had a chance to win just grabbed me. And it was wow, I don't know, it was cool to me. And then I just kind of became a fan ever since. But I do feel unfortunately, when you have teams franchises like the Steelers that have the 6 rings, it's how do you honor a team that was really cool and memorable but didn't win it? And I do feel there could be more. That's why I do like the Hall of Honor, because it does pay tribute to each generation or each era of Steelers. The 80s wasn't that bad, but because it's the Steelers, the 80s is this terrible decade. But and even the I don't know. I don't even think Le'Veon gets the raw deal too. I don't think his name is anywhere in the Hall of Honor because each section has notable players from each decade, and Antonio's name is there and Le'Veon's isn't, and I don't think that's right.
You had a really good.
Yeah, that's not right at all.
Le'Veon Bell about the mid 2010s.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. He seems like a fascinating interview. I read
he was 5 minutes away from me when that interview happened.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right. So our interview got cut short, and I actually almost said, "Hey man, just text me. We'll meet at the coffee shop down the street." We both live literally in the same suburb. I think I saw him getting gas once, last year.
Oh,
I didn't walk up and I didn't want to be a creeper, you know what I mean? But because he drives a black Camaro. He bought when he was with the Steelers. And so I didn't say anything. I definitely can tell that he's remorseful for what happened, and I feel terrible for him, and I feel terrible for everybody involved, because I do think that he should be his career. I think another time is past now where I do feel his career should be celebrated for what he did, because he did do a lot of cool things. Not every career gets to end in a fairy tale Jerome Bettis kind of setting. So.
I agree.
Oh yeah. What do you think about this jerk Colin Cowherd?
I think he sucked.
Oh yeah, Dwayne Haskins situation.
I think that was incredible.
He's not. Of course, he's not going to win a Super Bowl.
I just think
what can he do?
I don't like the guys making his career on labeling people. And the thing that I don't like about people like him is his listeners are I don't want to generalize because I've listened to him before, but his listeners then take what he says and they take it like gospel. Well, oh no, this quarterback's not good enough because Colin Cowherd said so. It's that's the whole hot take thing. It's I guarantee if all 4 of us talk long enough, we're gonna not agree on something, and that's okay. Because we all have different perspectives and different opinions. It's when we don't respect each other's opinions and what we think we talk what we think is fact, and then the people that we listen to are just echo chambers. Not just in sports, right, but in life, politics, whatever. I think that's as a society, when we get in trouble. And so, just the Colin thing, the Dwayne thing in itself was totally just awful. It was despicable. But that whole subject was here's quarterbacks that can't do it. And I don't like that because it's he's just basically just come to this conclusion. It's negative. And I hate that too, because it's who knows? Their stories aren't done yet, right? Most of them, unfortunately, Dwayne's tragically is, right? But some guys could still have a bounce back, could still do something. We don't know. Jim Plunkett, right, would have been on that list in 1980, and he won the Super Bowl that year, right? He was a bust number 1 overall pick. So I don't like the fact in the media when we just choose to go the negative route. And that to me is the easy route. Because we can look at any guy that's been a wash. We can say that Cody White is going to be a guy that the Steelers can't count on, and then he could have a 100-yard game for all we know. So I just think that's lazy journalism. And in regards to that Haskins thing, the fact that he didn't issue an apology to me was disgusting. And I haven't been a fan of him for a while, and I just never thought that I'd see something like that. But it just confirmed the fact that I just don't have much respect for him and the type of show that he has.
Yeah, I never liked. I've had a beef with him for about 16 years. Ever since he crapped on Sean Taylor after he died, saying he was basically said he was a thug and he deserved what happened. I was like,
yeah. I mean, I remember that too. And that's the thing. It's like if you're not there firsthand, I think it's important to not draw conclusions right away. I think it's important to let the facts play out. Let everything play out. And even like with Dwayne, right? We don't know exactly what happened. And so why try to draw conclusions? The bottom line is it's a tragedy that guy died. And that's the bottom line. And we should try to give his life the respect it deserves. But yeah, it was disgusting. But I was disappointed that he didn't apologize for it, but that's on brand as far as him and his whole shtick. So.
Shameful by him for all that. I never liked Cowherd. There's a weird thing. I like him and then I don't like him for that stuff. He kind of tries to base around like a few things as fact, and it just doesn't make any sense at times. And it's just the weird thing. But that's how it is with these hot take guys.
Well, I even remember when Ben retired, he was like, my bad Colin impression. Could have been great. Could have been Brady. But he settled for being good. And it's like, how do you know? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what Ben's doing in the offseason. Like, I kept hearing in like 18, Ben's fat, Ben's this, Ben's that. Like, I was next to Ben in the food line and like Ben's ordering fruit and vegetables, right? Like, there wasn't a single carb on his plate. Like, he'd even stare at a carb that it might just sink into his body somehow. Like, yeah, there might have been times where he got complacent, or like, was he Peyton Manning? I remember Emmanuel Sanders kind of ripped him, when he went over to Denver. Like, okay, but like, that's like saying that give me a good golfer. Like Tony Finau isn't like Tiger Woods. Well, there's only one Tiger Woods, right? Like, nobody trains the way Tiger Woods trains. That doesn't mean that Tony Finau's a bum. You know what I mean? It's like okay, Ben wasn't Peyton Manning, but guess what? Nobody else was. Like Peyton Manning's Peyton Manning. You know what I mean? It's like, but guess what? Like Ben worked hard too. Like you can't get to the NFL and stay there. You can't stay there as long as he was. If he wasn't a student of his craft, right? If he didn't read defenses, if he didn't put in the work. And I do think I do think there was probably a period in Ben's career where he did kind of get by on his physical attributes for a little bit. But I think that was like 09, 08. And I think one of those years he won the Super Bowl. I think when he came back in 10 after what happened, I think he recommitted himself. So I think Ben I think scale of 1 to 10, Ben was Johnny Manziel. Got nothing out of his ability really at the NFL level, or a 10 where he maxed out. He was an 8 or a 9. I mean, I ask my Bengal family now, if Ben got you, or if Burrow gets you 1 ring, are you happy with that? They're like, of course we are. Well, Ben got the Steelers 2. He got 3 Super Bowls. How many? 10 division titles or something like that? A lot of playoff appearances. They were relevant his entire career. I think most quarterbacks would take Ben's career, right? I think we can all agree on that.
I mean, just take a look at it like this. In terms of the balance of Tom Brady's career, you can look at him like Jordan. There was plenty of people who were able to get 2 rings out of that. Mahomes, both Mannings, and Roethlisberger. I think when you look at that and see what he had to deal with, that's a Hall of Fame career. And you can't say anything else other than that. Other than Brady, there's only 2 quarterbacks throughout his entire career, Tom Brady's career, that made it to 3 Super Bowls. It's Mahomes and it's Roethlisberger.
Right.
So,
yeah. And I think
celebrate that.
I think the issue is they were all just early in his career, right? And I think that's kind of it's kind of similar to Aikman, where Aikman won 3 before he was 30 and then didn't win any more. But yeah, I mean, and this is the crazy thing. If you go to like 2010, if they win Super Bowl 45, Ben has as many rings as Brady, and he's younger than Brady. And and again, yeah, Ben already had Ben's like, if Ben isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, like I'm not sure what happened, because he should be and he's going to be. But if they're able to break through in 45, or I think the dirty little secret from like 15 to 18 is that the Steelers were the second best team in the AFC during that run. And I think they're better than New England in 15. If the Steelers in 15 are healthy, they're winning the Super Bowl. I think they're beating Carolina. They're winning the Super Bowl, but they weren't healthy. And then 16, Le'Veon got hurt. I think New England in 16 was really good anyways. But 18, they were better than New England. They beat them in the regular season with 38. Oh, man, what's his name?
Jalen Samuels.
Yeah, he had 140 yards in that game. You know what I mean? It's like, Jalen Samuels, right. So I just think, unfortunately, Ben didn't get that third one that I think really would have gotten him his real due. But yeah, I mean, I just heard Collins say that, and it was just like, man, I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And again, it's like, I'm sorry.
That's what they said. Said that about Tom the other day on his show. The Steelers don't win big games anymore. He mentioned Kenny Pickett as like one of those quarterbacks who will never win a ring too.
Right. Well, I mean, heavy lies the crown, right? I mean, and that's the thing. It's like when you win 6, it's like the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees are very similar comp because they won their last championship around the same time the Steelers did. They have all these championships that they've won. And again, I don't know. I'm not a big baseball savant, but like if you look at like the last title the Yankees won to now, I bet you most fan bases would take the run that they've had. But it's just not up to the standard of Yankees, their fans, the media, because of that standard, right? And even with Tomlin, I mean, you get Mark Madden just has been on this crusade this offseason, just ripping Tomlin, and it's like, and honestly, like he wasn't Kevin Colbert. So like when Shazier gets hurt, they don't have depth at inside linebacker. They have to get Sean Spence off the street. How is that Mike Tomlin's fault? Like in 16, Martavis gets suspended for the year, and they don't draft a wide receiver. How is that Mike Tomlin's fault? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, everybody has to shoulder responsibility, good or bad, for what happens, and Tomlin has to share a lot of his. But I think that Khan is kind of shedding some light on, and Andy Weidel, like, here's how you run a team personnel-wise in 2020 in today's NFL. And I think Colbert was awesome, but I think he just did things a certain way, and he did it a certain way for 20-plus years. And I feel like it may have been slightly outdated. And I think that the Steelers front office now is perfect for right now. Because, I mean, Art's running out of patience. And Art even said it, I think, this summer or this offseason. He's over 70 now. He's like, I'm not getting any younger. And Tomlin's kind of getting close to the end, I think, of his career as far as being the head coach. By choice. I think he doesn't want to do this much longer. I don't think. I have no idea. I don't think he has any idea, honestly. I just get that feeling. So I think they are kind of in a win now, like, really chips in the middle of the table now. But my big knock on Colbert was I think there was always a big hole as far as depth somewhere on the roster. And I always felt like he would like build the defense first, and then he would build the offense. But then by the time one was the ending its prime, then the other one was coming up. So I feel like it was always this like, are they ever going to get good at the same time? Like 17 they did, and then it kind of fell off again. And I think like Khan has kind of showed, no, you can build both groups at the same time. You can have two good offense and good defense, and you're not sacrificing the other one. So yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to see everything play out.
All right, guys. So, anything else?
No, I'm good. I agree with Brian. I was thinking the mid 2010s defense, their secondary, like 2016. I think they had Ross Cockrell, Cody Sensible, Mike Mitchell, and Sean Davis in their secondary. So that's a good point about the offensive defense not matching up.
And Artie Burns.
Yeah, Artie Burns.
But last kind of thing, and I apologize because you guys don't want to talk history, and I always drag people into history. But like,
drag us in.
I think Ben in 15 was the best quarterback in the league. I mean, Cam was deserving of MVP, but I think Ben was. I think that was Ben's best season. I think he led the league in average passing yards per game, and like Brown was just ridiculous. I think for my money, since I've been alive, which is a minute now, I think that was the best Steelers offense I've ever seen was 15. Because D'Angelo almost had 1,000 yards. Because that was when Le'Veon got hurt halfway through the season. And I even think the defense that year was 10th or 11th in scoring. And who was 41? Nobody liked him.
Antoine Blake.
Antoine Blake was their starting corner. I think led the team in picks that year. I thought Antoine was fine. Big hitter, really good hitter. And they smashed the 49ers that year, which was Shazier's coming out party. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there should be a book about that team at some point. The late Killer Bees and all the crazy.
There'll be a 30 for 30 on that.
Yeah, I mean, because I kept asking the reporters, it's like this is a much quieter camp. Like it's all about position. It's all about like what football should be about, right? The position battles of who's going to win left tackle and who's going to win right guard and who's going to win this and that. Like there's not Antonio walking around anymore and all the craziness. Some of it I miss, some of it I don't.
You know what, Brian? I think the Steelers are getting back to what they are.
Yeah.
But I still think they're like a year away because, like you said, they drafted until a couple years ago that 16, 17, 18, 19. Don't get me started on the 2019 draft. Trust and believe.
We will have to bring out the beeps.
Yeah. Well, one thing to your point, I think
in 20 drafts, they were outside of select few. They were horrible.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I agree, and I think this team. I think to me, the floor is making the playoffs. I think that's the floor, and I think the ceiling is anything past a wild card win. I think if they win, and I think even TJ said that when I talked to him for like the Wheaties promotion. He said, like, I haven't won a playoff game yet. So like we gotta get rid of that drought. We gotta end that drought. Again, yeah, they want to win a Super Bowl this year, but I think for fans, I don't know if you guys agree. I think a realistic benchmark for this team would be if they win a playoff game, to me, this season would be considered before we see anything. We have no idea how this thing's going to play out. But as we sit here today on August, whatever it is, I think they can win a playoff game this year. I don't know how people could say it wasn't a good season.
Yeah,
I think advancing around would be pretty good for me. If they advance 2 rounds, I would be ecstatic. If they somehow make it to the Super Bowl, I think I'd probably go jumping off the Smithfield Street Bridge in a celebration.
Yeah, I think this division could be winnable too, because I wonder with Cincinnati. I mean, Dax Hill looked good last night, and their secondary looked good, and they're drafting really well. But Baltimore's a mixed bag. I don't know how things are going to play out there, and I just think Cleveland is. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying. And I think they're going to try to air it out this year, and I don't know if they have the personnel to do it. And with the Steelers' 25th ranked strength of schedule, I think that it bodes well for them to do some damage. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think this team is certainly capable of winning a playoff game.
Yeah. I'm thinking they can win a playoff game. But we're talking the standard here.
Sure.
They're a year away.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Because they're not. I'd say about 14 to 18 out of 32 teams in overall roster. They still got a long way to go. That's all I'm saying.
And contract-wise, everybody's going to be back. Nobody's going to be pending. So, yeah, to your point, I look at this as like a two-year odyssey. You know, but this year has to be a good bridge to next year. If they backtrack and they have to fire Canada or they have to, like, move laterally, I don't think that's good. This season has to be a good bridge to next year. And if it comes a year early, then it comes a year early. Nobody's going to complain. But I think that, that's kind of how I'm looking at these 2 years. They're going to have essentially the same nucleus pending this season doesn't fall apart. So, I mean, they've got 2 years. But I think starting next year, that standard should be back to where it usually is, for sure.
All right, guys, that's all we got. Bryan DeArdo of CBS Sports Network, thank you so much for coming on for the show. Of course, we enjoyed every minute that we had you on here.
No, hey, likewise, and I know you guys adjusted to fit my schedule, so I appreciate that. It's always good talking to you guys too.
Trust me, I told you, you're one of our favorite guests. And by the way, congratulations on the daughter. How's she doing?
Oh, good, man. She's good. I got a picture over here. She's 8 months old. Man, she's put me through training camp. I get her to myself Mondays, Fridays as we're trying to watch the daycare bill. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't have to work out anymore because I'm running around with her. And now she's starting to crawl. So this thing's getting interesting. So no, I
trouble.
Appreciate that. Now, yeah, I am in trouble. Now she is a Bengal fan. So for her sake, but you know, the Steelers have not lost a game since she was born, though. I must say, her first game was in the hospital when they beat Carolina, and they haven't lost since. So she's been a good omen for the black and gold, even if she's not a fan yet.
Yeah.
So
Gotta break her down, man. Gotta break her down. Building steps. First you get her a Steelers a plaything, and then you advance on the shirts. And then suddenly, before you know, the entire closet is full of black and gold.
Exactly. That's a good game plan.
Trust me, it'll work. It worked for me. I tried to be an Eagles fan once upon a time. Still kind of worked out, but I like McNabb. But anyway, Bryan, thanks so much for coming on.
Likewise, guys. My pleasure. Thanks again.
Thanks, Bryan. Appreciate it.
Oh, anytime.
All right, so that's all for us. We'll have some more with week 2 and the rest of training camp later on this week. For Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, I'm Tyler Polk. You have been listening to the Renegade Blitz.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. And subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast,